Marquis D.
Hola from the hawk who makes the ladies squawk. I'm coming to you from a pre-record right now on a sunny beach in Mexico. If you clicked on this video, you made the right choice as a ball, because today we have to talk about Half Pint Brawlers.
But I believe in recycling. You know what you're drinking? You're drinking your own piss.
This was a show that aired on Spike TV in 2010. It was half-hour episodes, and it's really stupid. This show caused a lot of controversy at the time. It caused the frat fraternity to get kicked off the campus, and the American Little People Association went nuts. Before we get into today's video, I just want to let you know that you can buy the Wild Slapnuts t-shirt now in muscle fit. The online store's back up, it's working. The Hawk doesn't personally profit from any of this. It's all thanks to a little man called D Page who makes the ladies rage. So if you're interested in getting this, or the limited edition Fly into Graceland World Tour shirt, we've got everywhere on there. We've got there from Texas to Midsummer Norton. So check the link in the description if you're interested in that. Now on to the video. Half Pint Brawlers was founded in 1999 by the main character, Puppet the Psycho Dwarf. You might be familiar with him. He wrestled for World Wrestling All-Stars. Yeah, that failure of a promotion.
These guys have actually been feuding for years, having these hardcore matches for years. When the feud started, they were both 6'2".
Kill the little bastard! Come on, Mark, please. Oh,
yeah!
Right into the...
Yeah! Jeremy, do you know what type of vibrate we could do if one of these midgets killed the other one right here live?
Please.
This game will be available on the Xbox in a few months. No, yes, go! Try to kill yourself! Oh no, he might die!
He's trying.
Do it!
Fly, midget, fly!
He also appeared on TNA several times in the early days, and he did something in a trash can, and then pulled a gun on a wild slapnuts of his.
Double J.
Jeff Jarrett.
I'm going to come right out and say it. I will try to not use the term midgets during this video. I know a lot of people in the comment section are going to tell the Hawk off. I'm not a PG kind of guy, it's difficult for me. They used the term midgets a million times whilst I was watching this show. And besides, Puppet the Psycho Dwarf actually said in an interview, he prefers to be called a midget rather than a little person. And in this day and age where people are obsessed with saying they should be called certain things, don't you think we should let him be called what he wants to be called? Anyway, that's the Hawk's opinion. I'll try and be PG about it, but I'm not promising. And if you've got a problem with that, I'll smack you with a brick. This show ran for 6 episodes and is shot in reality style that follows Puppet running his wrestling shows. It's a bit like Jackass meets wrestling. In fact, some of this crew appeared in Jackass 3D fighting with Wee Man. Watching this show was an experience. The show received heavy promotion from Spike TV and the show was hyped up on TNA TV throughout 2010. This wasn't actually a TNA project, it was a Spike TV project. Half Pint Brawlers and TNA just happened to share the same TV network. Now TNA did actually do their own midget show, but that doesn't surprise any of you, but I'll save that for a separate video. And this isn't like any roster you've ever seen before, because there's literally 7 guys on it. One of them is Nate Spiderweb, a hardcore wrestler who isn't even a little person. We've also got Kato, who is classed as the veteran, and he's pretty much a miserable, stubborn kind of guy. Mad Mex, the immigration sensation, is the hardcore wrestler of the group. Tio is a wrestler who pretty much wrestled on the same big shows as Puppet, although we'd soon find out that he has a bad attitude. Puppet, the boss of the group, lives in a trap shack, so presumably this show doesn't pay him very well. In fact, he seems to be sharing the shack with beautiful Bobby, a fellow wrestler. And finally, we've got Turtle. This poor fucker Turtle. We'll get onto him. The show opens up with how the Half Pint Brawlers were hyped up in the media. Presumably these are fake TV news reports, I'm not really sure. They're on the way to a show in a bar, but Puppet is a bad booker, and it turns out his ring doesn't fit in the bar. There really doesn't seem to be much going on in the way of actual wrestling on this show. Puppet had a member of the audience staple a dollar bill to his nutsack. This goth chick wins, and she really enjoys doing it. I think she's definitely a secret sadist. The best thing that constitutes any sort of match is a hardcore match between Kato and Bobby. But it ends in disaster as Kato goes through a coffee table and destroys the back of his head. And this injury is terrible, so bad that the show can't go on. After his hospital treatment, Puppet and Kato keep arguing because Kato still wants to wrestle despite being hurt. To begin with, Puppet is a responsible boss and doesn't let him fight. They now have this show in Wichita, which actually gets a pretty big audience, and at least the ring fits this time. Puppet has a hardcore match where he continues to pay homage to New Jack with his staple gun, but Max almost takes his eye out when he returns the favour, and this causes a big row. Puppet continues to be a bad boss when he eventually caves into the pressure, and he lets Kato work a match. Look at the state of his head. He shouldn't be working anything. He should be in bed. Anyway, it's dumb because they say these two guys know each other so well that an injury couldn't possibly happen, even though the injury happened between these two guys in the first place. Beautiful Bobby wins the match with a splash, and luckily Kato gets through the match without dying. Incredibly risky stuff. Did Spike TV give the green light on this? Because it should never have happened. That injury looks horrendous. An ongoing trend throughout this show is this poor idiot called Turtle. He actually had zero wrestling skill. He can't even run, I'm not exaggerating. But for some reason, Puppet is determined to have him on the roster. And they proceed to bully the crap out of this guy in every single episode. He's attacked aggressively for looking like Hornswoggle when they shave him. And when I say shave, they shave every part of him. He is hazed on every episode, but ultimately I just feel sorry for the guy. And then, and I'm not making this up, there is an entire episode dedicated to this poor being forced to drink his own urine. I'll do it for the squad. And not only does he have to drink his own urine, he has to do it in the middle of the ring in front of the live crowd. This somehow proves he has what it takes to be a roster member. Then a drunk girl is chosen from the audience and she makes out with him. The episode ends with poor Turtle telling us that he loves his life. The next big storyline on the show is that Puppet has decided to hire Tio. This rubs the other wrestlers the wrong way because they dislike Tio. Especially Kato, who says Tio tried to sleep with his wife. Who would have known there'd be so much heat in the little person wrestling world? Puppet vouches for Tio because he brings much more to the show than any of the other wrestlers. But he's apparently been out of business for a while and Puppet is getting him back into ring shape. They set up a ring in the middle of New Orleans Street, which is actually a really cool spectacle. It feels like the only matchup they have every night is Kato and Beautiful Bobby. It's getting boring. Now it gets even weirder when they put on a wrestling show in a real maximum security prison. This show is done to create an example to inmates that they can become successful after leaving prison. I would genuinely rather be in prison than live the same life as this Turtle guy. He's worthless. His life is miserable.
It's a little tight. I think he ripped it open all. The first time he's ever done anything like this.
Puppet continues being a terrible boss when he demands that Tio and Kato face each other in a match at the prison show, even though Kato still can't stand Tio for trying to sleep with his wife. And even more, Tio hasn't wrestled a match in a couple of years. Seems a risky environment to be trying out this match. But the prisoners end up actually loving it and the match goes off without a hitch. Fair play to these guys for giving it their all to entertain the prison population. The show just carries on with jackass type stunts, usually leading up to a wrestling show at the end of the episode. They literally spend an entire episode driving around with a real life miniature donkey in their van. They even go as far as trying to sneak it into their hotel room and the donkey stays the night. Why? Apparently this donkey is important because it can help portray a more family-friendly show to the Half Pint Brawlers. Along with this, they want to do bike stunts. They hype it up for an entire episode, and when eventually it happens, it has to be the least impressive bike stunt I've ever seen. I guess they realise that it sucked, so they decide next time they do the stunt, he needs to jump over a real-life alligator. Little people dragging alligators around by the tail. It's actually pretty funny. This is all for a family-friendly Southern Pride event, and it is the most redneck thing I've ever seen. Little people mud wrestling with girls in bikinis, quad bikes in the mud, eating contests, pretty much anything but wrestling. The big story here is that Beautiful Bobby broke his leg last time he was on a motorbike, and now he's being forced to jump over an alligator. And it finally happens. This may be 1% less underwhelming than the last time he did it. The Mexican sensation hangs around with the donkey as a funny stereotype, I guess. There's 1 minute of wrestling on this episode, and that is the problem with this show. They just don't know what they want to be. Is it jackass or is it wrestling? It seems like the show is about to change pace again as the Brawlers join the Hawk down in Mexico. And they will actually be wrestling on a real-life luchador event. But the producers have ADHD again and they lose focus, so instead it turns into an episode about which midget can get laid down in Mexico. Then they have a beer drinking contest with a donkey. They also fight a bull. This goes on for ages. Finally, they visit a lucha libre event. But the issue here is that the ring is made out of dodgy, bent pieces of wood and they don't want to wrestle in it. But before any wrestling can even happen, we have to find out which guy can get laid south of the border. So they go on a booze cruise. It was at this point that I really started to question what the hell am I watching. Turtle somehow wins the contest, much to everyone's amazement. The losers have to dress up and sing to people in the street. This also goes on for a while. Finally, some wrestling at the big lucha event. It's going to be a three-way staple gun match. Bobby versus Puppet versus Kato. Bobby is eliminated first. No idea what happened to him, they didn't even show it. Puppet wins the match with a slam of some description. About 30 seconds of wrestling footage again. A complete waste of time. Do you know what else turns out to be a waste of time? The getting laid contest, because Turtle admits that nothing actually happened with the girl. And after that storyline with Tio, where the hell is he? He hasn't been on 3 episodes now. Is he dead? Didn't he have a visa to go to Mexico? But they were only in Mexico for one show, so where is he? But no, Tio actually returns on the very final episode as they're interviewed at a radio station. Turtle gets a dollar bill stapled to his nutsack during the interview. They're in LA for a battle royal, but because Puppet doesn't have enough wrestlers, he hires a midget basketball team. This guy has to be the worst promoter of all time. What an idiot. One of the guys looks like Beetlejuice. There's loads of bad feelings between the two teams because they play basketball and they have a little fallout. They're also having trouble promoting their LA show, so they decide to stage some random fights in the street. Maybe they should go somewhere a bit busier. It turns out that the basketball team don't actually know how to wrestle and they lied. Puppet is the worst promoter ever. He spends this whole series talking about how since 1999 he's been building up himself as a credible brand. Yet he doesn't know what wrestlers are actually credible little person wrestlers. That doesn't make any sense. So that's our big plot point for this episode. Puppet is worried that these basketball little people are going to destroy his reputation. I'm not even sure he has one at this point. On the plus side, that means this episode has the most wrestling, because Puppet has to teach them how to wrestle. It just wouldn't be an episode of Half Pint Brawlers about Turtle getting bullied though. They force him to make out with a transvestite. The basketball team still can't wrestle and it's the day of the show. Puppet flips out because he thinks his battle royal is going to be ruined. It's now time for the hardcore little person battle royal. They manage to eliminate the basketball players early to avoid any embarrassment. Tio and Puppet continue their long rivalry in wrestling and Tio wins with the Swanton Bomb. Dude, I was watching the Half Pint Brawlers the other day, man. And this dude, Tio, the midget, he stole my Swanton Bomb finish maneuver, man. Man, I'm going back to Carolina, and I'll go tell my stoner friend Shannon all about you, Tio, man. As a celebration, Puppet forces Turtle to get a picture of Puppet's face tattooed on his ass. Except it's Puppet from the 80s. Ugh, Turtle. Your life is so bad. It can't get worse than that. You literally contributed nothing to the entire show except from drinking your own piss. I hope you got a good payday from this, because whatever it wasn't worth it. Turtle is now officially a Half Pint Brawler, even though he still doesn't know how to wrestle. And that's all irrelevant because this is where Half Pint Brawlers finishes, with a midget's ass. And I think that's the perfect way to sum this show up. It's a midget's ass. The show ended after 6 episodes and was not renewed for another series. Now, despite how bad this show was, it actually did okay in the viewership. It was on late at night and the debut episode pulled a 0.7 with around 830,000 viewers, which wasn't far off what TNA was getting at the same time. The ratings did slip to around an average of 0.5 over time. There was also controversy the following year when Bischoff and Hogan decided to create their own midget wrestling show, and Puppet almost sued the Hawkster. So you can pretty much consider that a TNA show. And when I get my hands on that show, there will of course be a video from the Hawk. Now that show was bad. I just didn't know what it was trying to be. Is it Jackass or was it a wrestling show? Or is it a show about bullying? As a wrestling fan, you might just about be able to get enough entertainment out of this, but don't be expecting to watch full matches with great moves. It's more of a documentary about Puppet and his quest to run the show and keep his staff in line. In 2020, Stevie Lee, aka Puppet, passed away at home unexpectedly. Now, it's easy to laugh about how bad this show was, but Puppet actually achieved more than any of us will in our lives. He appeared in films and TV like American Pie and American Horror Story. So I say to you, rest in peace, Puppet. You were very memorable in wrestling. It's a shame your Half Pint Brawlers show couldn't have gone on longer. Now I'm off to the beach because I just seen your girl and I'll be on her. And if you don't agree with that, then you're wronger.